All right, I think we are officially ready to go. Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate that you're going to spend the next 45 minutes with us, and hopefully we'll be able to give you little tips and bits of information that maybe spark something or inspire you to take a different direction with what you're doing or add to what you're doing, and we'll see what we can do. I'll start off by introducing myself. My name is Terry Musser. I am the Chief Operating Officer with Pignatelli and Associates. We're a law firm in Northern Illinois, and we're about 50-50 split. We do PI for half of our business, and the other half is hourly, mostly family law, criminal law, as well as some trusts and estates. But we're really focusing our efforts with Litify mostly in our PI division, although we've definitely worked in some of the hourly fun as well. This lovely human to my left is Hannah. I'll let you introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Hannah Wilshire. I am an LSAP consultant. I'm sure some of you guys don't even know what LSAP means. So it's Litify Success Acceleration Program, which is still just a lot of words. But basically, we are your consultants. So we are able to consult, figure out business processes and how to make those work best for you guys. We're also able to do just some basic admin work. So if you have new employees, we can onboard them in Litify. We are also able to do some training, which is great. Your workers will be able to do DocRio, create their own reports. It allows them to have some autonomy with their own work, as well as just configurations, which is the bulk of what we do. We're able to kind of build out your firm to the next level and really customize it to the way that you need it.
So the point of why they've asked us to be here today is to share a little bit behind the curtain for our particular firm and how what we have done has greatly integrated with LSAP, and we wouldn't be where we are today if we hadn't utilized them to the fullest extent. Hannah is my LSAP guru, and I hate to think where we would be. So I appreciate you here today and for everything else you've done. What we're looking to do is just walk you through where we've been, where we're going, and where we are now, and hopefully share a little bit of interesting tidbits with you. Giving a little bit of background, we had, to be completely transparent, a false start when it came with Litify. And so we spent several months creating what we thought we needed. We migrated everything over, and we looked back and realized that we were operating with a product that was not functioning at all how we wanted it to. And so I then entered the company and inherited this situation. And said, well, how do we navigate this? What do we do? We worked with Litify, and they did a wonderful job of saying, okay, we need a backup here. You didn't really have a standard implementation. We're going to take you back to the client success team. We're going to figure out what we should have done in the first place with you. Again, our fault. We shouldn't have signed up that way. But we were in that situation now, so what are we going to do about it? And they were able to step back and say, let's unwind and start over. And that's where we found LSAP, because we brought them in first of all, as kind of emergency management, because we were in a situation where we're live with the product, it's not functioning the way we need it to. All of our data is trapped in here now, and it wasn't doing what we needed. So how do we move forward? What we did is we were able to work with LSAP to create some of the processes to stair-step us from where we were to where we needed to be. And that was some of the wins that we've already put in place that we're currently using and are currently. They've taken the platform from something that was a burden to my team to something that's now helping them do their job better. And so I want to start by sharing with you some of the wins that we've had thus far. So the three main things that I'm most excited about that we've fully implemented and are fully working right now are our login interaction feature, our status list, and our resolutions. And I want to show you a little bit about what those are. So login interaction is something that for us lives on the side of every matter. You'll see it down here, it's really tiny. And so you've got your regular matter, and then login interaction lands on the side. When you first start with Litify, I believe most of you have the feature log a call. For us, that was fine, but it didn't quite act as robustly as we needed it to. What was the difference between logging a call with a client and logging a face-to-face meeting with them? In our mind, there wasn't really anything different. So why are we only logging the call when we could be logging that meeting? Or we could be logging any type of interaction that we have with anyone outside of our firm. So what we did is we created, with LSAP's help, our login interaction feature, which is essentially the log a call on steroids. And for us, we were able to take it and build it out step by step. And it became where now, just as you would log a call anytime you're there, anytime you're going to do something with a client, with opposing counsel, with anyone outside of the firm, the first thing you do is you come in here and you select a type from up top. And it could be a call, it could be a face-to-face, as I said, it could be that you left a voicemail. Anything that you did with them now gets logged in here. And over the several months, we set up all sorts of automations, and we kept adding and growing different things to this feature because we didn't want to have to do things twice. We didn't want to put the data in and then have to put it in somewhere else and then have to put it in somewhere else. By building it all in here, we took away as many clicks as possible. It automatically loads the client's data because that's who you're most likely interacting with the most. If you're not interacting with the client, it's a few clicks to put in, here is the person I am interacting with. If you are needing any follow-up actions, we decided to link our tasks. So you can just click a simple button that says create a follow-up task. It links it to this record and creates a new task that then goes out to the appropriate person saying, hey, this person called, it was a phone call, but now you need to return this call. So you've logged what you did do, and you've done that action item request now to the appropriate person. We took it a few steps further. You can see at the top here, it was not just create a follow-up task, you could also accept payment from here. So when my front desk was speaking with a walk-in who came in to make a payment, we not only record all the questions they have when they came in, any documents that they would have dropped off, we can also go ahead and log our payment there, which Hannah has set up automation, so now it all flows into the right place so that we don't have to go and add it in several other places. We add a negotiation. If I'm an attorney and I'm sitting on the phone logging, hey, I'm talking to opposing counsel, we're negotiating whatever resolution. Instead of having to take time to go to the resolution object, they're already logging the information. They can click that button, it all flows through to the negotiation object in one nice simple step. We do hourly. We also have a section that says create a new quoted service. For us, we're quoting retainers. And same thing, if I'm attorney X and I'm going and talking to this person, I'm recording my interaction, I also want to note, what did I tell them? And so now if I quoted them a $7,000 retainer that has to be paid by X date, you can really easily get it logged in here. And it's a nice, easy peasy process. At the bottom here, we also created a simple satisfaction survey. At the beginning of the interaction, was the person happy/satisfied? The other option is, were they angry/unsatisfied? And it's about how you feel about the firm. Did they start off good? Did they start off bad? And at the end of the interaction, did they end good or did they end bad? By doing that, we've been able to take those metrics, and it's a really simple way to see realistically, how are we doing? There are certain people who have staggering numbers of starting off a call with an angry person and being able to transfer them over to end positively, and that's a hugely valuable statistic for me to know. Same thing, if we have someone who's always ending negatively, why? What's going on? Clearly there's some other intervention that we need to bring in. All of this was able to be used on our login interaction, and all of it was because LSAP helped us grow step by step, and it took form, I can't stress enough, over months, because we didn't know what we needed at first. So we started.
Yeah, I was about to ask that. I was like, so Terry, this can be pretty intimidating, right? This is a lot of different things to click, but your firm has gotten used to it one step at a time. So you start out with one thing and then build upon it. So that's a good thing with LSAP, is it's a good way to kind of roll out customizations for your firm in little segments so you don't overwhelm your employees. And then you kind of realize, okay, maybe we need to add this. Maybe you don't. So like you maybe need to take something away, which has happened before, but
definitely.
Because this is all customizable, this is obviously not plug and play. This is something that we can build out to whatever your firm needs. Obviously, most of you guys are not going to need to log a time entry, but you may need to do something else that you're constantly talking about with the client. And I think Terry really talked about making this user-friendly for employees. So instead of having to go and log a call, then go to the related list to find the negotiation. You're now doing it all in the same screen, and it's where the employees kind of live day to day, which makes it just more functional and usable for employees on a daily basis.
And the point of sharing this with you in this presentation today is that all of these ideas were things that we would come to LSAP and say, here's the problem we're having. This is taking too long, or this isn't getting captured. What are we going to do about this? And then working with Hannah and the LSAP team, they've been able to say, here's how we can achieve that for you in a way that is efficient, doesn't break your bank in creating it in the first place,
right,
and then works with us to implement it to get to a final solution that we're really happy with. And so this is one that we have been using. It took forever to troubleshoot, and now I don't think we've had an issue with it in months, and it's sailing off into the wonderful sunset with this functional tool. Another one, actually, a last impact on that, one of the great things about the login interaction feature is that if you're already using timelines, which are a great place to see a glimpse of what's happened on the matter, expanding your log a call into login interaction now makes it to where nearly everything you've done on the matter is actually being captured on the timeline. we were having holes. We'd see certain things that were happening and be left in the dark about others. By bridging that gap, the timeline has now been infinitely more useful because we were able to build out in a way that made sense for us. The next thing I wanted to share, one of the other wins, is our status list. We affectionately call it our Caitlin's demand status list. Caitlin is the person in our office who does the initial drafting of our demands, and so she's the keeper of all of the information at that stage. And what I kept hearing from my attorneys was, I need to be able to see the big picture of all of my cases and know where they're at. And that takes shape in several different ways. One of it was with the negotiations. I have 700 demands that are outstanding right now, or I have a whole handful of demands where I know I've received a counteroffer and I haven't replied yet, but I can't make the decision of what I'm going to work on next. So help me make that decision with the vital information. And that's where we came up with our status list specifically for demands. As you can see on here, we took all the information for a certain matter and put it right there next to each other. So you can see the back and forth with how it's going. You can see if one of the statuses that aren't visible here is, you can see the draft is sitting on the attorney's desk. It's been submitted to attorney for review. That is a hugely beneficial tool that we've been able to use so that our attorneys can easily go in there and look and go, oh, clearly, I can see that Sally's demand has been outstanding for X number of days. I need to bump that to the top of my to-do list. It's helped them figure out what is the next step they should do when looking at their massive case list. And so this has been one of those things that we built out with LSAP. I went back and forth a little bit, and it's just a simple reporting feature, but it was putting the right combination of LSAP tools in place to produce something really functional for us.
And this talks about, negotiations are a standard Litify object. So when you install Litify, negotiations comes with it. But just because it's there doesn't mean you have to use it exactly how it was built. So you're able to make changes to those pick list values. So now you have that on the attorney's desk. You're able to make automations. You're able to create reports in a cool way. So even though those objects might feel limiting, they're not. So don't ever let something scare you. There's always a way around it, or to create something that works better for your firm.
One last thing I wanted to point out on here, you'll see the negotiated with details field. It's where all that bulk of data is. That all populates through automation that LSAP set up for us, so that when you put that information in once, it ends up here in this form due to all sorts of different flows that we've put in. And so you don't have the attorneys or the paralegal spending their time clicking the same insurance adjuster's name time and time again. You put it in once, you have your roles set up correctly, which is hard to get in the first place, but once you get it set up correctly, the flow takes it from there, and now every time you go to do it, the information populates itself. And that's something LSAP has helped us figure out how to do that in a way where all your data gets where it needs to go in the least number of clicks possible. The next one, a win that we've been really excited about that we've been able to utilize, is that we've been able to roll certain objects from one to the next. I'm assuming that most people have it set up where your intake rolls into a matter when you've decided to go forward with this case. The information from there is moved forward. We took that same concept and rolled it forward where once you input your insurance information, you can take that and roll it into a negotiation. So again, you're never having to re-input your data. And then as you're going back and forth with your negotiations, once a negotiation has been successful, up in this top right corner, we have a convert to resolution button. And so your attorney can say, yes, we have locked in this agreement. I'm converting this to a resolution. All the information rolls forward into our custom resolution page. And our resolution page, we have spent a lot of time working out.
Yes, because it's a big project.
It was, and several reasons. We didn't want to input data again. We wanted a snapshot so that if you were in the middle of a resolution, meaning your settlement has been accepted, but maybe you are still negotiating liens, or you've received your settlement check, but you haven't actually paid everything out yet, so you've got money sitting there in trust, those limbo situations. We wanted a way to better snapshot, see what was going on, so things didn't fall through the cracks and you didn't have to spend 700 hours looking for this data to see where everything is. So what we came up with was resolutions where when you click convert to a resolution, you confirm a couple things. It asks you to confirm, is your contingency rate correct, which should already be in there, but you just, in case for some reason you wanted to change it or negotiated something else, you verify it. And you confirm that your payer is in fact who you were negotiating with. So you make sure that the title is correct. This check should be coming from State Farm or whoever it may be. Once this rolls over, all of these fields start getting populated by everything that you've done previously. And so in one snapshot, I don't know if this is too small for you to see, It breaks down every single part of your resolution, and you can say, here's the amount of money that ultimately should go to this section. So here's the amount of money that should be paid toward attorney fees, or external return fees if you have referral fees, or toward liens that are still being outstanding, or amount due to the client. And all of it is set up with automations to add itself, and so you can really easily see if you've input data that's incorrect. There's checks and balances to tell, hey, something went wrong. You put an extra zero somewhere. This doesn't add up. And then you can see if it's been paid or not, because how many times have my attorneys come to me and said, hey, we received that settlement check from so-and-so. Did we deposit it yet? Where's that money? You know, has the client received that check yet? Now they don't have to ask me that. They can go ahead and pull this up, and in one snapshot, there's a simple field. Everything over on the side here says unpaid medical, paid, unpaid medical, not paid, paid, expenses not paid. And so it's a really simple way to see where has your money gone, where is it supposed to be going, and where is it at right now. This is also really good for historical data because once you've fully paid everything out and you're zeroed out at the bottom, everything says paid, you can close your matter. You can then take all of this data and apply it toward your reporting, and now you have dashboard information that is really, really great. We can go back and look and say, how long did it take from a resolution to be reached for, let's pick on State Farm today, for State Farm to actually cut me the check? How long did it take internally for us to receive a settlement check to actually get that check into our client's hands? If that's taking an exorbitant amount of time, I want to know why, and I want to fix my process to improve those. This allows us to do that.
Yeah, and I love this converting to the resolution. I'm sure you click on party, you get a new party, you click on resolution, you get those screen pops where you fill in all this information. Those basic ones, they don't autofill any of the information except for maybe the matter that you're on. So we have the option as Litify consultants, we can build out custom buttons. It allows you to pre-fill any field that you want. It allows them to also override if needed. And sometimes you don't even want it on the screen. Maybe you want it on the page layout, but you don't want it on the actual pop-out. Because I already know that this is the matter. So there's no need for them to see that. Or maybe they just need to see it, but they don't need to be able to change it. So there's a lot of, every single object, every single new button you see is customizable and can make it a lot easier for your employees to be able to create those different objects.
Taking this one step further, we do a lot of trucking cases. And a lot of times what happens with trucking cases, you end up having multiple insurance policies in play. So you may not have a single resolution. You may have three because your driver of your truck is insured and your owner of the vehicle is insured and the person shipping the information is insured. And so a simple resolution for a matter wasn't enough for us. We needed to be able to separate that out because one check from one place isn't the full snapshot. We then brought in LSAP and said, what do we do about this? It's completely limited. It doesn't fit for 5% of our cases. So they created a section called associating costs. And so part of our resolution screen is where it's going to bring in all of the data from everywhere else. It's going to bring in, here's all the expenses you've logged. Here's all of the attorney fees that you've logged. Here's all the damages you've logged, the medical record costs, the billing. And then you manually go through and associate those to a particular resolution. So you can say, I associated these costs with this resolution, I associated these costs with this resolution, and now you're able to still have a single matter because that's what you want. It's not multiple matters, it's one matter with multiple insurance policies. And this allowed us to deal with that. We then ran into the issue of what if I associate it and then realize that that's not how it's going to go. I need to undo what I did. They created a section called disassociate costs. And so now you can go in there and undo what you did in the event that something changed because your negotiation was expected to go one way and then took a right turn. It gave us the control over making sure that Litify actually mimicked what was happening in real life. And all of that was creation of LSAP. I came to them and said, here's our problem, what's our solution? And they worked with us on the solution.
Yeah, and I think it's just good because especially for you, you really know like your business processes. So then you know, okay, well maybe I want to go ahead and pre-fill all of these to be checked. And then they can choose to associate them all or not. But people are human and we make mistakes or things just change. So yeah, we need to be able to customize this to be able to work if they need to associate more later or associate some after. So just really understanding how their process works allows us to be able to build out what's exactly needed. And again, it also was a process. All of these things we built out are all custom screen flows, and we can change them at any moment. So to be able to add the disassociate costs was a game changer, I think.
And to give an idea of how all this works, when we're working with LSAP, nearly all of our calls are video calls where we're screen sharing. So much of this is done where I'll pull up my screen and I'll say, see this over here? What about, can we make this do this? And then Hannah will take over the screen and she'll go, does it look like this? And she'll play with some things and show me. And it's a cooperative process that I would not have been able to just send an email. And in fact, when I first started working with LSAP, I did just send an email. I spent half a day once drafting, here's what I want it to look like. And I made this huge visual Word document to outline exactly what I wanted. And then realized that didn't in any way convey what I needed from them. And we realized that system needs
100%.
to get thrown out the window. And we need to actually talk, and that's what we do. And so we have that exchange of ideas where I can clearly articulate what it is that our concerns are, and you can help me understand what the limitations are of it, and what the workarounds are if it doesn't do what I want it to do at the first place. So those are some of the wins that we currently have working in the firm that we have gotten through the process, and they are launched and being used on a daily basis. Wanted to share a little bit about some of the work that we have in progress, things that some of them are a little bit smaller, one is huge, and it's just our ongoing process of how we've been using Litify. So actually, we're not going to go there just yet. I have very few screenshots for you in this section. When Hannah and I were looking at what we were going to do, these are work in progress pieces, and so I don't actually have much to show you. It's a million conversations we've had, so I'm going to try to tell you about what we're doing. Three of the things that we've been really excited about, number one, privacy. We've had a couple circumstances where, although the majority of our firm is completely public to everyone who works within our offices, there have been certain times where it's appropriate to shield a particular matter from a particular person. We had that example when we had someone who, the case we handled years ago was actually their brother, and it was a pretty gruesome situation. She didn't need that popping up in her search. It was more of a, just for her sake of mind, I needed to get that off of her screen. We also had a real estate agent who was working with us. Wonderful, did a lot of our work, but some of the consulting that my attorneys did were on other possible real estate ventures where it would be inappropriate for her to know what properties they were looking at, because she wasn't working on their file, and we can't really share what our clients are exploring as far as properties. I'm sure you have a million examples of little things like that. We're in the process of trying to figure out how do we shield certain matters from certain people where you still have the functionality of being able to have it appear in search for the people you want it to, but not for the others, without making everyone go blind and then having to add people in as you go, because that doesn't work for us.
No, yeah, and we have a basic platform in order to be able to hide matters. They're called like private matters, but for their needs, it doesn't fit exactly. So we're customizing our customization to kind of figure out what makes the most sense so that everyone can see it unless they don't need to see it. And we're making really good progress, and it's something that I'm sure other firms would want to be able to do, not just to have their matter team see it, but everybody. So it's a work in progress, but we're getting closer and closer every day.
And we just started working on the problem.
Yeah.
It's not outstanding because we've been doing it for 7 years. It's just something that's it's our newest project. Another one of those is I want to be able to have automatic alerts when certain documents get filed in a certain way. And when I don't want to have to ever type something in twice. So when we have our documents in DocRio in a certain way, I want to attach those to certain records and have it go forward. Hannah's in the process of figuring out how to make that happen for me. And what I love is that as I started talking about what I wanted here, the first thing out of her mouth was, you know, I've actually worked with another firm on something similar. Why don't I show you what we've got going on? Not giving me any proprietary information about the firm, but the concept, right? We're not reinventing the wheel. They're able to take what they're doing with someone else and bring it over for us. And we're figuring out how to set that up in a way that works for us right now.
Yeah, and Terry is really good about not letting no be a definite answer. Just because we can't do it the way we think we can do it, let's really get all our brains together. So my boss, Ryan, who's been a Salesforce admin for like 16 years, we collaborate with him, we collaborate with our whole team. Sometimes we collaborate with the whole company just to figure out how to resolve this. Maybe we need to add a custom integration. Maybe we need to just create a new object like we're about to talk about. But yeah, we're always trying to make sure no is not an answer.
And I don't think we've ever hit a full brick wall. It's always been, let's figure out how to work around it. The last one item that's a work in progress that I wanted to share with you is absolutely my favorite. It's been my complete baby for a while now. We've spent countless hours on it. It's coming a long way. We found that there was lacking in tracking your medical record requests, in tracking what then comes back in. If you get a medical record back and it's lacking certain dates of service, or if you need to update your billing history, and it just trying to capture that and manage that has been a disaster. And so we have been working on an entire medical section and redoing it completely how we want it. So what we're doing is changing not only, first of all, we introduced medical roles, and this is a perfect one where Hannah had said, you can't do what you're wanting. And we had said, well, how do we achieve that goal? And she went off and came back and said, we're gonna give you a medical roles section. So the idea being, you have all of your roles, and it's a tab you can go and look at and easily see who's doing what on your matter. Problem is, when you start putting medical roles on there, it becomes saturated. You have 7 treating physicians, you have 5 hospitals, you have all of these different experts that are weighing in, and it's just too much information. So now your roles is not useful because you've flooded it. What we did is we separated it out. She gave us a parallel section called medical roles that is now living on our medical tab, and was able to even bring in, I wanted the search functionality. I wanted it to show up when we look for it, just like standard roles. And she was able to create that non-standard object for us simply because it fit what we were doing. Now, stemming off of that, we're creating an entire environment that is going to track our medical system. So when we get our medical records in, we're gonna have a data analyst person who's going to input in the data. We're having our nurse consultant who's going to review it in Litify. You're going to be able to see the medical summary within the medical tab in Litify and see if it's been reviewed by the nurse consultant or not. You'll be able to track changes. You'll be able to see our bill table as it's being entered in. And all of that information will be living in Litify, which for us right now, we use an Excel document for our medical record summaries. It's as least technical as you can get. We're taking it completely to the other area where we're gonna be able to link in our diagnosis codes to our injuries to be able to track. So if I wanted to know, with this particular person, how many times were they seen for their knee versus their hip versus their head, I can type in knee. Knee has been flagged now on every single visit that they were seen for it, and I can get that data with a click instead of having to sort through 700 medical record visits and check how many times knee came up. We are tantalizingly close to having a really fun working version of this. And while it's not done yet, I can see where it's going. And it is taking shape the way we want it. And it's being built out reflective of our current process. So we're taking the way we currently work and translating Litify into that.
And we're thinking about the employee again. So whoever has to input this facility, which is usually already created, they have to put in a request. But maybe when they put in a request, they also want to put in a date of service, which is a treatment for a lot of people. And then maybe you want to also add some treating physicians and an injury. And you also want to add a CPT code and like all these things. We want to be able to have it all on one screen in order for you as a user to not have to figure out where do I go next or how do I get back there. So it can be, in the back end, it's very complicated, but in the front end, all you see is this beautiful screen of, okay, create a new treatment, create a new CPT code, update the treatment. Like, it's magical, honestly, and yeah, I'm very excited for it to come to fruition.
And this is just one of those examples where I do not have the ability to have gotten where we are without them, and so I appreciate that LSAP has been integral in that process and making what we're envisioning actually come to fruition. So for the next section, and we're almost done here, guys. I appreciate all of your attention and patience, and I love that we're sharing all the information here, and it's good things. For the next section, I wanted to share how we're using LSAP, because people can do it in different ways, and LSAP can tell you, we're here to do this and this and this. This is how we're using it. It's what makes sense for us. So when it came to evolving with LSAP, we use them mainly for 3 things. We use them for our next step learning. And what I mean by that is we've gotten to where we are and I can't do whatever the next step is on my own. So I go to them and say exactly that. How do I set up this banner? How do I set up an alert here? How do I change this field because it's not letting me put enough characters in there? Whatever it may be. And over time, I've learned so much from them that I can do a lot of it on my own.
Yeah.
And as they teach me that next step, that next step, the next step, most of it, once they show me, then I can go ahead and do it the next time on my own. The next one is creative solutions. And actually, I'm going to take you to this one. Creative solutions and big picture review is how we also use them. backing up for next step learning. Functionality is what I was talking about with them just simply teaching us how it functions. Flow. I love workflows. I am not excellent at creating them, and so that's where LSAP comes in.
And I wouldn't suggest it unless you have tried it in a sandbox, not your actual org.
Yeah, and so we use LSAP. We'll just come to them and say, hey, we want this automation. You know, when I type this here, I want it to auto-create this task. I want it to auto-complete this task, whatever it is. And they'll go ahead and set that up for us and show us how to do it, troubleshoot it with us. And then at the end of the day, it usually works out pretty well. And that's the next step learning piece. For creative solutions, the brain trust that we've been able to create with working with LSAP, new processes, some of our best ones we shared with you in the win section, have only happened because of our relationship with LSAP. One of my favorite parts is eliminating clicks. We have previously taken certain processes and put them into place, and I'll bring them to my staff, and they look at me and go, no. I'm like, what do you mean, no? And they're like, that's going to take 700 minutes to do this one thing, and you want us to do it every day 20 times. It's too long. Yes, it achieves the goal, but it's not functional. And that's where LSAP has come in. Mm-hmm. How do we make this quicker? Eliminate clicks. If I can do it in 3 clicks instead of 7, every time, take the 3.
And that's a good place to start, too. If you're wanting to join LSAP, what's causing the most frustration? How many clicks is it taking? Let's figure out a better process.
Yep. LSAP has also bridged the gap for us in 2 ways. They've bridged the gap between Litify rollouts and our current org, because we've had certain trouble in that it's great that we've been able to build out things to customize for our org, but that makes us no longer plug and play. So when LSAP rolls out with a new product, we can't just put that in there because it's not compatible with what we have. LSAP bridges that gap to take the rollout, the newest version, the whatever it is, and allows us to keep all of our customization, but then integrate the LSAP processes, or the new Litify processes into there. They also bridge the gap I mentioned earlier in telling us what other people are doing. I think I used the phrase, don't reinvent the wheel. If another law firm down the road is utilizing this product in a really creative way, we need to be able to share that information, and LSAP has been able to do that. Hannah has regularly said, I have an idea for how we can do this because someone else had that problem 3 months ago. Wonderful. Why am I having to troubleshoot this and start from square one when we can learn from what others are doing? As far as the big picture review, where they've come in has been pretty beneficial in audits. There have been several times where I've said, can you please take a look at what's going on? And where are my holes? Especially how we started with Litify Go. We didn't know what our options were. So we started off, and I remember specifically learning that there was an injury object because I was describing what an injury object would do, and someone from LSAP said, well, why don't you use the injury object? And I said, I didn't know there was an injury object. Great, thank you, let's do that. I'll go ahead and put that in there. But they've also gone and they've taken a look at our back end, and they've identified where we have either redundant processes, workflows that are conflicting with one another, certain things that are potentially producing errors because they are not working in tandem, and they've been able to help us with that. And the last one, which is possibly the most beneficial thing to me, is the flexibility. Everything that we do now, we have the conversation of, if we do this now, are we going to be able to roll this into something else later? Are we going to be able to evolve this as our needs change? And we talk that out. One of the things that is still plaguing us from the beginning is we set up all sorts of things as party lookups. Well, when you look up a party, that's useful. You can sync it in there. But we didn't set it up as a role lookup. So now that we are in the process where we're starting to really use roles all over the place, you can't just convert those party fields into role fields. And so on a lot of our pages, you'll actually see where we'll have our old field, which is a party lookup, and you'll literally have the same field with the word new next to it that's a role lookup, because we're figuring out how to get out of that area that we got stuck in. We don't do that anymore because we have the conversation first. How do we roll with this going forward?
Everything is changeable, but
how hard is it going to be to change it?
It can be a process, and then you have to make sure that everything matches when you're trying to transfer over to those new fields. So having those conversations in the beginning really eliminates a lot of the burden and the heartache of trying to get it actually transferred over to the correct field that you want.
Yep. And so that's how we're using LSAP. I'm sure there's other things that you guys can do, but for us, this has been the most valuable. My last section I entitled Ask Hannah, and the reason being is that I wanted to share how integral LSAP has become into our firm. My staff has a way that they communicate with me now where they'll come up and they'll say, hey, Litify is doing this. I was wondering if you can add this other whatever to the pick list, or can we maybe make it to where this auto feeds over here? And now they've started even phrasing emails as, hey, can you ask Hannah, can they do this? And so it's become this process where they know how much we depend on them. And so Ask Hannah has become my automatic answer of I either say, yes, I can go ahead and add that field for you, or I say, I'll ask Hannah and get back to you. And that's really the only other option I have. And they know that when we do that, I'm going to get back to them with something that's a wonderful solution. One of my favorite quotes that Hannah has said, I can hear her in my head at least 7 times, is this one that I have up here. It's, let me think about that and get back to you. I want to consult others and see. And this only comes out when, between the two of us, we've relatively hit a brick wall.
Right.
And it's we've explored something, and the general methods of achieving whatever it is we want aren't working. And Hannah says this, and at first that made me very nervous because let's fix the problem. But she every single time has come back to me after speaking with some of the other LSAP team and we've worked around the problem, whatever it is. That's how we ended up with login interaction. That's how we've ended up with some of these other things. And this has now become one of my favorite phrases because the stuff that she has returned with has been the most wonderful creative solutions. And it indicates that not only when we're working with LSAP are we getting Hannah, or whoever your Hannah would be, but we're getting the entire team. And I love the fact that they will help each other out and come back to help fill in the blanks for us. And so that's how we've been utilizing
Yeah, there's
them.
like 8 of us LSAP consultants currently, but we're going to be hiring. I mean, we're still hiring now for at least one more position. So yeah, I don't know everything, but I want to help your solution. And yeah, so you basically are working with all 8 of us, regardless of if I'm your sole LSAP consultant. I'm never going to say, oh, I don't know how to do that. We just can't do it. And also there's so many resources, not just with our knowledge through Litify, but also just with the web. People have been trying to figure out solutions for other things that relate. So we're able to figure things out through the internet, through community, through the incredibly smart and talented people at Litify, not just LSAP. So by using our managed services, you get this plethora of knowledge and being able to get the result that you want.
So that brings us to the end of just sharing a little bit with you of what we're doing. Hopefully it was interesting to you.